If we own a home today or plan to own one in the future, we should understand how real estate agents are paid. Welcome back to the Independent Seniors family, where we're building, you guessed it, confident home sellers. Today we're learning about real estate commission rates because most homeowners hear commission explained as a percentage without fully understanding what that percentage actually costs. I meet a lot of wonderful people as I network and build relationships and move throughout my community. And lately, I've met several homeowners who recently signed listing agreements with other real estate agents. And good for them, because I'm always happy when people find someone they feel comfortable working with. And sometimes I'll ask if they would share the commission rate their listing agent requested. And more often than not, the answer is 3%. Then I ask a simple question. Why did you decide to pay 3%? And many times they don't really have an answer. I'll then ask whether they requested a listing client credit, a reduced commission rate, or any other savings. And the answer is usually no. But not because they were told no, they simply did not know that we could ask. Many homeowners, they don't realize that we can discuss and negotiate the agent's requested commission rate, which is the amount real estate agents are asking us to pay for their services. But after today, we will be more confident home seller and better prepared to protect our equity. In this lesson, we're going to discuss 3 topics that could save us thousands of dollars the next time we sell a home. One is understand how both agents are paid. 2, what does that percentage mean in dollars? And 3, learn how to negotiate fairly with confidence, because receiving exceptional service and getting the deal, it should go hand in hand. All right, let's get to number 1. Understanding how both agents are paid. Now, most real estate transactions, they involve 2 agents getting paid when a home sells. The listing agent representing the homeowner and the buyer's agent representing the person purchasing the home. Let's start with the listing agent. As the homeowner, we're hiring a real estate brokerage to help us prepare, market, negotiate, and sell our home, and hopefully for the highest value the market will support. We usually pay the listing brokerage from the proceeds of the sale after the transaction closes. So in simple terms, I'm selling my house. I'm hiring an agent to help me sell it, and I'm responsible for paying that brokerage for their services. This is why we should be careful about hiring the first real estate agent we speak with, especially when something just doesn't feel right. To hire an agent to sell our home, we're going to sign a listing agreement. This is a contract that explains important details such as services the agent will provide, how long we're going to work together, and the commission we're agreeing to pay. That commission may be calculated as a percentage of the home's final sales price. This means the conversation about commission, it needs to happen before we sign the listing agreement. Ask questions. Understand the services being offered. Discuss the commission rate. And make sure we're comfortable with the agreement before we sign it. Because if we try to have that conversation after the contract's signed, it may not carry the same weight. Now let's talk about the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent represents the person interested in purchasing our home. And that agent also expects to get paid for their services. But for many years, it was common for the home seller to cover both compensation for the listing agent and the buyer's agent. And depending on the rates involved, a seller might have paid a total commission of 5 or 6%, with a portion going to each brokerage. Now today, sellers still have the option to pay commission towards the buyer's agent, but they're not automatically required to do so. Before working with the buyer's agent will generally have the buyer sign a written representation agreement. That agreement explains the agent's responsibilities and how much the buyer has agreed to pay the agent. The compensation could be a percentage of the purchase price, a flat fee, or other clearly defined amount. And there is no commission rate set by law, and the amount is negotiable. The buyer may then ask the home seller to pay some or all of that compensation as part of the purchase offer. Now, as the seller, we can agree to the request and pay it, we can reject it, or we can negotiate a different amount. Now, if we agree to cover the full amount, the buyer may not have to pay the agent directly. Now, if we agree to cover only a part of it, the buyer may be responsible for the difference. And if we choose not to contribute, the buyer may be responsible for paying their agent according to the agreement they signed. Now, if we're learning this for the first time, it can be a little overwhelming, right? But don't worry, we can listen to this as many times as we need to. And in future episodes, we're going to take a deeper look at many of these subjects. Wait a minute, if we're enjoying learning how to become a more confident home seller, take a moment and share this video with someone that you know can use it. A homeowner, a friend. Follow Independent Seniors and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. All right, let's get back to work. Okay, our second point. What does that percentage mean in dollars? When we have a strong understanding of the commission percentage, what it means in dollars, we're better positioned to negotiate and create a deal that protects more of our equity. Let's say we're meeting with an agent because we want to sell our home. And that agent tells us they charge 3% commission for full service listing representation. Perfect, right? Now we may think, I don't understand this industry, but now I don't have to worry because my agent is going to provide full service representation. Of course, most homeowners do not fully understand what full service representation includes, but we're going to save that for a different episode. The important point right now is that the agent is asking us to pay 3% commission. Because most of us do not have much experience selling homes, we naturally compare that 3% to percentages that we already understand, such as a 3% interest rate on a car loan. That sounds like a pretty good rate. A 3% mortgage rate, that sounds even better. And then earning around 3% on a CD, it sounds like a solid return. Now, from that perspective, 3% sounds like a solid deal, right? Well, for example, let's say we're financing a $35,000 vehicle for 5 years at 3% interest rate. That would cost us approximately $2,734 in total interest. And that sounds like a pretty good deal. But when selling a home, we need to dig a little deeper because percentages are being calculated a little differently. A loan's interest rate is paid over time and based on the amount financed. And real estate commission is generally calculated as the percentage of the home's entire sales price. Today, many single-family homes in suburban and metropolitan areas sell for more than $500,000, with many reaching and exceeding $1 million, as we all know. A 3% listing commission on a $1 million home equals $30,000. And that's only the listing side, for our example. Now let's say the seller also agrees to pay 3% toward the buyer's agent's compensation. Yeah, you guessed it. That's another $30,000. And that brings the total commission paid $60,000. Yikes. Now, the home sold for $1 million. But after paying $60,000 in total commission, approximately $940,000 remains before accounting for mortgage payoff and other selling expenses. Now, $940,000, that's a lot of money. But it's important to remember that the sales price is not the same as the amount the homeowner gets to keep. Let's say we still owe $300,000 on the mortgage. So after paying $60,000 in commission and paying $300,000 in mortgage balance, we've got about $640,000 left over before closing expenses and any applicable taxes. Now let's look at the same $1 million sale using a slightly different commission structure. What if we negotiated a 2% listing side commission and agreed to pay 1% toward the buyer's agent compensation? So now the listing side commission would be at $20,000. And the contribution toward the buyer's agent compensation would be, yeah, you're right, $10,000. So now our total commission for the sale of our home would be $30,000. That's half of the $60,000 paid in our first example. So now after paying the $300,000 in mortgage balance, we're left with approximately $670,000 before selling expenses and applicable taxes. That's a difference of $30,000, as we said earlier. What would you do with $30,000? Now, that money could help us cover selling expenses. It could strengthen the down payment on our next home. It could support the move, or it just simply allow us to retain more of the equity that we've spent years building. This does not mean the lowest commission is automatically the best deal. It means we should understand what the percentage actually costs. Evaluate the services we're receiving and have the commission conversation before signing the listing agreement. All right, here's our third and final point. And for some of us, it's going to be the most difficult. All right, learning how to negotiate fairly and with confidence. Now, this can feel difficult because a lot of us don't have much experience negotiating. We may hesitate to ask for a discount or a better deal because we don't want to come off cheap or difficult or a bit disrespectful of someone's work. And maybe there's been times where we've asked for a discount and the salesperson responded with, yeah, I can't do that. This is the best I can do. But then we tell ourselves, right, like, well, at least I tried. But when selling our home, we need to remember that we're hiring someone to perform a professional service for us. And think about hiring a contractor to remodel our kitchen. We make the smart decision and we receive 3 estimates. The first one's for $28,000, the second for $30,000, and then the last one for $37,000. And we're not necessarily looking for the cheapest contractor. Right? In fact, we may feel the strongest connection with the contractor who quoted us $37,000. They answered all of our questions. They communicated clearly, and they showed us examples of their work, and then had excellent reviews. So we may tell that contractor, we loved your presentation, we trust your company, and we would really love to work with you. Would you be willing to complete the full remodel for $33,000? That's the beginning of negotiation. The contractor may say, well, I can't do it for $33,000, but I could do it for $35,000. And then maybe we respond and say, can we meet at $34,000? Maybe we reach an agreement and maybe we don't. But simply having the conversation, it could save us thousands of dollars without forcing us to choose the cheapest contractor. So we can use the same approach when hiring a listing agent. Remember, we're in control of who we hire to sell our home. So let's return to the $1 million home from our previous example. Or we interview several agents, but the agent we trust the most is requesting a 2.5% listing commission, right? We could say, we loved your presentation, we trust your experience, and we'd like to work with you. Would you be willing to provide the same full service representation for a 2% listing commission? Now the decision is in the agent's hands. The agent can accept the request, they can decline it, or they can propose a different arrangement. Reducing a listing commission from 2.5% to 2% on a $1 million sale would allow us to retain an additional $5,000. Now the agent may explain that they cannot provide their services for 2%, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It gives us the opportunity to hear why the agent values their work, what services and expenses are included, and why they believe their requested compensation is appropriate. And then we can make an informed decision based both on the cost and the value we believe the agent will provide. Commission does not have to be negotiated only in familiar increments, such as 1%, 1.5%, 2%, 2.5%, or 3%. Why not discuss a 1.75%, a 1.9%, a 2.2%? Those numbers may initially sound unusual because we're not accustomed to hearing them, but it's the math that matters. All right, on $1 million home, a 3% listing commission, it equals $30,000. A 2.2% listing commission equals $22,000. That's a difference of $8,000. The exact percentage is not the point. The point is that we should understand the dollar amount and feel comfortable discussing it before signing the listing agreement. And what happens if the agent holds firm at 3%? Because that does happen. We could ask whether the brokerage would be willing to provide a written listing client credit. For example, we might say, we understand your commission is 3%, and we would still like to work with you. Would your brokerage be willing to reduce its commission by $5,000 and provide that amount to us as a credit at closing? Now, the agent and the brokerage can decide whether they're willing and able to agree to that request. And any credit or reduction should be clearly explained, approved by the brokerage, it's important, included in writing, and properly reflected in the transaction. Now, the biggest lesson here is not to find the cheapest agent or to underpay someone for their work. It is to protect your equity while paying listing brokerage fair compensation for the services and value they provide. Also, to understand what we're paying, how much, right? Understand what we're receiving and reaching an agreement that feels fair to everyone involved. Remember, before we sign a listing agreement, understand what the commission percentage means in dollars, ask questions, and feel confident having that conversation. If this video helped you better understand how real estate agents get paid, subscribe to Independent Seniors and share this video with another homeowner or someone that's going to be a future homeowner, right, who may need it. My name is Joshua Sevier, and I'm a real estate professional who's had the privilege of representing a client in the sale of a $3.1 million home. I also work alongside my wife, Christine Sevier. She's the owner and president of Creating New Hope Senior Living Advisors. And whether you're thinking about selling a home, downsizing, buying, exploring senior living opportunities, we would be honored to be your family's trusted real estate resource. Now, feel free to reach out to us at resource@theindependentseniors.com with any questions you might have. Thank you so much for hanging out and choosing to become a confident home seller. As always, stay strong, stay connected, stay independent, and I'm going to see you on the next one.